Welcome to the Small Church Podcast, the podcast for church leaders who want to make a difference in their communities. We're your hosts, Tony Marr and Bruce Montgomery, and we're excited to be with you today. On this podcast, we'll be discussing the latest trends, strategies, and ideas for effective leadership in small-sized churches. So whether you're a pastor, a ministry leader, or a volunteer, this podcast is for you. Each week, we'll bring you interviews with experienced church leaders who have valuable insights to share. We'll also explore topics like team building, community outreach, spiritual growth, and much more. So if you're looking for practical advice and inspiration to help you lead your church with excellence, you've come to the right place. The Small Church Podcast is brought to you by Hire Ministries. Hire Ministries is an organization that exists to help Christian leaders in the churches they serve through coaching and consulting, all for little or no cost. For more information on Hire Ministries or to find out more about the Small Church Podcast, please visit hireministries.com. Thanks for tuning into this week's edition of the Small Church Podcast. Bruce, we're back. It's another week. How are you doing this week?
Doing pretty well. Things are going good. We're settled in and really happy to be with you.
Yeah, great to be here with you as well. So a couple of weeks ago, we did an episode where we talked about the importance of rest and rejuvenation. That episode was really well received. We had a lot of comments, and one of the big comments that we had from several different listeners was that they loved the idea of rest, and especially when we talked about taking 2 days off a week, but they found that taking time off, they don't have time to get everything done. And so with all of the demands that a small church leader has, and we've talked at length about this, we've talked about this over and over, all the different hats that they wear, all the different roles that they play in their church, in their organization, that when it comes to taking time for themselves, they felt like they didn't have any time. And so one of the questions that we've been asked is, how can a leader in a small church be more productive? How can they get things done in a more efficient manner? And I think that it's something that's critically important that everyone, regardless of whether you're a leader in a small church, a large church, or just a church attender, a member of society, that it's something we can all work on. It's getting more productive.
It's so easy to get caught up in the tyranny of the urgent, not really having a plan, and even if you have a plan, not working your plan.
Yeah.
Those are the things I think are really hard, because it really is easy to get, I got to do this, and now I have to do this and have to do this, but I should have done this. And so it depends on some discipline in your life about what you do, but also what can be delegated. You don't have to be the only person doing ministry. What can you delegate and just oversee? Therefore, you don't have you have many hats, but you can take a few off. You know, I'm in my life, what I've seen is the church is willing to let you wear as many hats as you want.
Oh yeah, they are.
But that each hat you wear takes a different period of time in your life, and so we have to make sure that it's worth putting that hat on to do it, or can somebody else wear the hat and just check in with you? But delegation is one of the things I think is there. The other one is planning. When you do get into the focus of what you're doing, planning and following your plan. You know, I've known people who have great plans, but they never do them. You know, it sounds good on paper, and they can tell you they're really good, but they really get caught up. Gosh, my pencil's got to be sharpened, or gosh, I've got to get some more coffee. And we're always kind of caught up with the tyranny of the urgent. And in our lives, even in our faith, sometimes the tyranny of the urgent becomes more important than being what's important to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Bruce, I think that there are some people that are just naturally wired to be more productive. Some people that are really focused on how they can make themselves more productive, and others that, man, it's a struggle for them. My daughter, who just graduated from college, just moved into her first apartment. We moved her in this past weekend into her first solo apartment. She'll be starting grad school in the fall, and she's starting a new full-time job coming up in about a month. She is driven to be productive. She still keeps the old 3-ring binder and the day planner that she's tried all of the digital ones, but she loves, for a 21-year-old, it amazes me that she loves having the paper in her hand. And she has, you look at her day planner, she has every minute of her day scheduled out, color coded, exactly what she's doing, where she's going to be, what she's going to do, what she hopes to accomplish during that, her goals, her measures of success in that. It blows my mind. She's learned well from her father, I think. At least I would like to think that.
I think it's definitely from her father.
Well, I should definitely take some lessons from her because I'm not nearly as productive and as organized as she is. I can remember my life changed drastically in the late 90s when I got my very first Palm Pilot. Do you remember the Palm Pilot?
Vaguely.
It was this digital organizer that now we all have them on our phone, but this was something that you didn't have to carry around with you. The big day planner, and it all was compact and digital right there, and it had a green screen on it. And I remember when they came out with the color ones, they were very expensive. I couldn't afford a color one, so I had the black and green Palm Pilot, and it revolutionized productivity for me. It was my start in my late teens, early 20s into being a more productive person and a more productive leader. And it's something that I've really tried to focus on in my life, and the variety of hats that I wear and the variety of roles and things that I have going on, that if I don't get control of the things that I'm doing and of my calendar, of my schedule, nothing's going to be done, and definitely nothing's going to be done to the level that it needs to be done.
I totally agree. I didn't have the Palm Pilot or whatever. I just still had paper, and I still use paper, and also one on my computer. And the problem is sometimes the discipline isn't there, and I can ignore both. And at that point, I get nothing done, or I get done what's, if there's something somebody wants to get done and they press me for it, I can get that done. But I like to know what I'm doing. I was really impressed with her plan and the way she's doing it, and I'm trying again right now to get back into the fact that the planning of things. I've taken kind of a vacation this summer, being retired and only working a little bit for the church. It's easy for me to just kind of slough off, read things I want to read just for leisure instead of some of the things I need to read. And so I need discipline. And it sounds like she's got discipline, but I know her father, and he's got extreme discipline in what he does and how he plans things out. So I'm proud of you and proud of her, and I'm going to try to follow your example.
Well, I think that for me, if I'm not taking control of my calendar, if I'm not being very diligent and intentional with how I'm trying to manage my productivity, then I'm not going to be productive. And the fallout of that is that I'm stressed, I'm anxious, my work is not good that does get done. I'm forgetting things, and then that causes me problems. It causes other people problems when I forget something, because so many other people are relying on me for things that if I don't get them the information that they need, if I don't take care of a task that needs to get done, then it's going to affect someone else.
Right.
And I don't want that. I don't want the weight of affecting someone else, negatively affecting someone else, because I didn't do my job the way that I was supposed to.
And you said it, if I don't have it planned, I can sit there all day doodling and thinking about things, but never being productive. And even with a sermon, I should start it here, but this phone call came in, and I changed my mind of what I have to do. And in ministry, there's some valid times where you have to break your plan. This is my sermon time, but somebody's in critical condition, or something that's really critical to the church comes up. That has to take priority, and then I have to fit that time in somewhere else to get that done. So I like being productive. I like the idea of, and I love the colors you can put on the calendar when you've got them on the
Oh
computer and
yeah,
things,
yeah.
and that makes them stand out to me. And I'll look at that. But then some days, since retirement, I don't even look at the computer, and there's a freedom to that too. But I'm not really under the pressure to do a bunch of things. So when I was really had the pressure, you better believe I had calendars and calendars upon calendars of different kinds as they work through, and I liked some of the daytimer type things that they had and the productivity things they had, and so now you get more electronic things to do, and my problem was I would spend a lot of time playing with it, seeing what it could do, and have it and use it effectively. That's my advice. If you've got it, use it effectively. Don't play with it.
Well, maybe today's episode on becoming a more productive leader can help you, Bruce. Last week, your episode on communicating effectively was greatly beneficial, a reminder of some really important things for me. And so hopefully today can maybe motivate you and inspire you for a little bit more structure and productivity in your life, but you're retired. So you have a built-in excuse to not be productive, and it's called retirement.
I'll try to use that, but I am taking notes. I've already got a page of notes just from when we started, because it's all stuff I used to do before retirement, and I need the structure in my life. But if any of you listeners want to call in and give me motivation, I would be glad to have that.
So, Bruce, let's dive right in. Let's talk about some really practical things that you can do, that our listeners can put into practice immediately to be a more productive leader. The first of those things that I find that I have to do in my life, if I don't do this, my world falls apart, and it's just what I like to call batching. It's taking all of the different responsibilities that you have, all of the different hats that you wear, as we've said over and over, and categorizing them on your calendar into batches, into specific blocks of time that you're focusing just on that particular task, that particular role. And so, for a small church leader, the many roles that you have, it would look like on Monday, if you work on Monday, if it's not a day off, that maybe Monday morning from 9 till 1 is strictly focused on sermon prep, on beginning to write for sermon prep. Maybe Monday afternoon is a batch of time for strategic thought and development, that you're working with your other leaders in your church, maybe other staff people if you have them, and you're talking through strategic development. Then Tuesday is set aside for administrative work that has to get covered. And you have these different batches. For me, I have a lot of different things that I'm involved in. I have properties that I manage. I have storytelling, professional storytelling work that I do. I have coaching that I do with Higher Ministries. I have this podcast that you and I do. I'm a basketball coach. So a lot of different things that if I don't batch these things together, then what I find is I jump from one thing to another, and the time that it takes to mentally transition from emailing my cleaners for one of my rental properties to preparing for the podcast that you and I are set to record the next day, to then thinking about basketball practice that I have coming up in the afternoon, to now wait, I've got a coaching client that I'm meeting with in the morning that I need to prepare for, that I'm jumping back and forth, that all of my thoughts get jumbled up in my head. The time that it takes to mentally transition from one to another is just a loss of productivity. And so taking all of those things that have to get done for my property management, taking care of those on Monday. Monday morning, that all gets done. Monday afternoon, I'm working on things for my coaching clients that I have on Tuesday, preparing my outlines for them. Then Tuesday morning, I'm meeting with coaching clients. Tuesday afternoon is preparing for the podcast with you on Wednesday. Wednesday morning, we're recording the podcast. And so all of these things are batched together so that I have a good chunk of time in my day that is focused just on this specific task, this specific area that needs to help. And And well, it keeps me focused on those areas.
I th- I look at that and I see that there's no way around it in ministry. But the other thing is, you need to set what the batches are, and you need to set how it is, not let other people come and set it for you. I mean, there are people in the hospital. How many times a week do you visit the hospital?
Exactly.
You don't have to go every day.
Exactly.
And sometimes if you go, honestly, and the person's asleep, I won't wake them up, but I'll leave a card. And if they're a senior citizen, they may not remember I was there. I leave a card too, just to let them know I was there. But I didn't go every day of the week. That's maybe Monday was my day to go catch that, and then do some sermon work and do other things around the office that I had to get done. Tuesdays was a sermon day for me. I wanted to have the sermon done by Thursday, so I had the weekend to kind of practice it and get comfortable with it and with the message to give it. So don't let other people set your priorities. You need to set the priorities, and it's easy to get out of sync, and then you're always hustling to catch up each time. And the other priority is taking time for your family. We've talked about that before.
Absolutely.
So you can't be a workaholic. There's some place in your life that you're going to have to plan for your kids, plan for your wife, plan for yourself, just so you have a well-balanced kind of life. I like this idea of batching. I think I've done some things like that, different name, but staying on one subject, one topic, one thing in your plan, and then move on to the next. And again, it stops you from, I used the term the other week, tyranny of the urgent. If we don't do those kind of things, we can get into the little piddly things. I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And by the time you've got all that done, you haven't even started what the major project was. So you have to have the discipline. When I want to work on a sermon, I'm going to work on a sermon. And I even tell my secretary, don't call me, don't break a phone call into me unless it's urgent.
Exactly. Which leads right into the next thing, is that categorizing things, categorizing tasks that have to be done into urgent, not urgent, important, not important categories. General Eisenhower talked about this in some of his leadership stuff, that he had a matrix that he categorized his tasks into 4 categories: urgent, important tasks, urgent, not important tasks, not urgent, important tasks, and not urgent, not important tasks. And if you can look at your list of things that have to be accomplished, that have to get done today or this week or this month, and have them categorized like this, it kind of lessens the pressure on you a little bit, that you know exactly which things need to get done now. And it's especially helpful if your team is on the same board with you with that, and they can help you in categorizing some of these things. You can make the important decisions on what needs to happen immediately, and what can get pushed off until later. It still needs to get done, but it doesn't have to happen right now.
Right. We sometimes do get caught up in the fact that we think this is so important now, when really it's not important at all, but it was something that just come to mind. And focusing, discipline, when those times come and your mind wanders off, disciplining yourself to go back into that. And one way to do it is make a note. I thought of this, and then go on, and so that you don't forget what you were thinking about here, but it doesn't take over your life.
Yeah.
And so you continue to go through and work on those things. And honestly, the check marks for doing those things make you feel good when you get it all done. I've had a day where I've got 5 check marks. That's pretty good. I've gotten things done. And then there's some days I get 2, and then because I got distracted. But the other part is, again, ministry is unpredictable. You can't predict the time somebody's going to have a critical accident and need you, or you can't predict the time somebody's going to come to your office when in tears and just looking for help, and you can't say no to them. Or I would say, if you're really busy on something, can you give me 5 minutes to finish up what I'm doing, and then I'll come, we'll talk, we'll spend some time together. But I don't want to lose the thought I have right here, but I don't want to lose you either. So give me a chance to make a couple notes, get organized, and then we'll talk. So that, again, you're in charge of your schedule, and God's in charge of that schedule because you're setting it with Him, and work it through.
Yeah, I think Bruce, one of the keys that you just touched on to being productive, to being efficient in your life and in your work is you have to be disciplined and you have to have good judgment. You have to be able to make quick decisions on, is this urgent? Is this not urgent? Is
Right.
this important? Is this not important? You need to be able to make those judgments very quickly and then have the discipline to stick to what you're doing if it's not one of those urgent things. You have
Both
to be able to say no.
both of those things are difficult, and for many of us in a ministry, we like to please the people we work with, and saying no kind of seems foreign to us. And so sometimes the lack of being able to say no gets us into trouble because we've wasted some time up here that we needed down here to get a good sermon or something else done. And so that means, okay, now I'm staying up till midnight to get that done, and now I'm going to be tired the next day. So there's repercussions for things that we do and the decisions we make and the decisions we don't make.
Yeah. Bruce, I think one of the keys to being effective in being a productive person is that you have to have measures of success. You have to have goals that you're shooting for, and they have to be identifiable. One of the things that we talk a lot about with higher ministries is having this bullseye that you're shooting for, that you're aiming for the target. And so you're not just shooting all over the place randomly. You have to have measures to help you reach for something and know that you're on track. The significance of setting a goal for productivity and leadership effectiveness can't be understated. It's critical that you know that I'm on track. And so it could be something as simple as I need to have the rough outline for my sermon on Sunday done by Tuesday evening. When I shut the computer, lock the office to leave for Tuesday, this has to be done. It's something that you're striving for. If you're not there, then you know that you need to that becomes more urgent, more important on your task list, and it's a goal that you're aiming for. It's something that you're doing, and then when you hit that goal, when you reach that measure, it's something that you can celebrate.
Right, and do celebrate because it's we need some joy in our lives, and part of the joy in our lives is accomplishing a goal, and set the goal, work towards it, plan it, and then celebrate it. And it needs to be something that has value, not working on your golf game.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I love to do with the goal setting, with having these measures, is to have something that I'm held accountable to. And so when I was a full time pastor in a church, I made sure that my team and my creative planning team met every Monday afternoon. And so by Monday afternoon, I had to have my big idea set. I had to have the big idea of where I was going set so that my creative team could begin working on how they were going to orchestrate the rest of the service around that big idea. Then on Thursday mornings, I would have at 10 a.m. Thursday mornings, my staff would all gather together to get the place ready. And then Thursday afternoon, after lunch at 1 o'clock, my staff, everyone who wasn't doing something else, would come into our auditorium and I would preach my sermon. It was my first run through for them. And then they would give me any feedback. And so if it wasn't done by Thursday at lunchtime, I knew I was in trouble because I had people that were going to be sitting there and I could not go to them and say, hey, you know what, we're going to push this week because I'm not ready yet. It had to be done by then. And so I didn't ever have any of these moments where I'm having to set the alarm for 5 o'clock on Sunday morning because my sermon wasn't ready and I needed to get up and scramble to get something done. It had to be done by Thursday so that I could do my first run through. And it wasn't even a run through, it was preaching through it for my staff, then sitting down in a talk back session and getting their immediate feedback, which then gave me the rest of the day Thursday to make any tweaks and changes that I might have. But if that was just a goal that I had for myself, that I didn't have other people that were relying on that they had plans in their schedule that I was accountable to, then there would be nothing that would hold me to that. And so I could say that I want to have my message done by Thursday at lunchtime, but if it didn't, what were the consequences of that? The consequences only affected me and not anyone else. So having measures that if you don't accomplish that goal, there's accountability and it affects other people, I think is something that will push you even harder to accomplish those goals.
When you're in a small church, though, you don't have that staff that's helping you do things and also holding you accountable.
Yeah, but you could have your spouse that you're going to meet with on Thursday for lunch or coffee or something, or maybe it's Wednesday evening, or maybe it's a leader in the church that you're going to get together with on Thursday mornings for coffee before they go into work, that you sit down and go over your message with them for feedback.
Yeah, and that's something that later in my life I'm learning. Most of the time when I was preaching, I didn't really want anybody's feedback on it until I got it written and ready to go. And I think that was a failure on my part. I think we do need to have somebody to run it through, whether it's a spouse. Maybe you can make your secretary suffer and go through the sermon and listen to it. But I think those things that are due, we have to be accountable to. And if you don't have people on staff to do it, maybe there's a friend you can come in and you can run it through with them, or just even in just kind of a sample. And we do that periodically, Tony, when we've preached and done things, we kind of run things by or the idea by. But having that schedule is good for us because it keeps us on point.
Yeah, and I think that it goes beyond just the preaching. I have 3 vacation rental properties, 2 in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and 1 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that I have a team together that helps me to run that. And as I talked about before, one of my batches is Monday morning, is time for my properties, for my property management stuff. And my teams that I have on site in Myrtle Beach and in Pigeon Forge know that before noon, they're going to get an email from me. Before noon on Monday, they will have an email from me with that week's schedule, any special things that are taking place, and anything that they need to know going forward for this coming week that is urgent and critical. If they don't have that from me by noon, I have messed up their day. I have messed up their week and their ability to effectively plan their week for how they're going to accomplish everything that they need to get done. And if I don't have it to them by noon, they're going to be reaching out to me saying, hey, didn't get your email this morning. Where was it? And I know that they're counting on me to do that. We talked last week about effective ways to communicate, and we talked about several different ways and means of communication. We talked about digital newsletters with MailChimp and Facebook posts and social media and text messaging. If you have a measure set, we talked about the one critical point, the one main point of your message, and ways that you can use these different means to communicate that message. And so if you have someone on your staff or on your leadership team that you say, here's a goal that I have, that every Monday on Facebook, we're going to call it Missions Monday. And so we're going to put out a post that talks about an organization that we support as a church. Tuesday, we're going to have Teaching Tuesday, where I'm going to re-emphasize that main point that is going to go out to all of our people on social media and on our website. Wednesday, you could have Worship Wednesday, where we're going to highlight a song that our worship team did and talk about, something that maybe was a new song or a way that tied in to the overall message. And so you've got people that are expecting these things that are going to come out for you. They take 10 minutes to do. But you know that this is expected of me. I've set this goal. I've set this measure for something that I'm going to do. And if it's not done on Monday or on Tuesday or on Wednesday when people are expecting it, then there's going to be people that are disappointed because they're looking for that. And you've got people that are going to be calling you up saying, hey, what happened with your day today that you weren't able to get this done?
It's always good, I think, when you have goals, and it's important for you to do them. And when you're in charge of your life, when you're the minister, it's good to have some people that you make yourself accountable to. And that's what it sounds like, Tony, in your life, that there's accountability groups set up with your batches. I'm gonna batch and get this done. If I don't get this done, and my motivation is so and so over here won't be able to do their job, and that lessens our ministry and lessens our things. So it's a trickle down effect for people. So I think you set up really well with a schedule, with people who can hold you accountable, and I think that for a preacher, how often do you let your spouse get involved in the ministry? I tried to protect my spouse a lot of the times instead of really letting her get involved as much as she would have liked to have gotten involved. And I know that her advice is good. It just sometimes I don't want to take it. It means something else, or I've got to go a different direction. But I need that feedback from people, and I need that I guess pressure, because the expectation is there to do this. And she has some pretty good ideas. I just don't always want to admit it because it's not the idea I had at the time. But having somebody there to hold you accountable is something I think is important if you're really going to be successful.
Yeah, I agree completely. One of the big things that is important for me, and I don't want to just keep focusing on things that I do, but there are things that I do to help me to be more productive and to take away the potential for me to lose my productivity. And one of those big ones is turning off distractions. That's a big one for me that it's so easy to get thrown off the road. It's so easy to get distracted and derailed. And so when you're in the middle of deep work, okay, when you're in the middle of really focused work that requires your attention, some of the practical things that I would say is put your phone on silent. Put your phone. I would even say put it on do not disturb. I use the do not disturb feature sometimes for mine. And the do not disturb, depending on what kind of phone you have, I have an iPhone. Do not disturb will still allow calls to come through from people that are in your favorites list, your speed dial list. And so my kids can always get a hold of me. My wife can always get a hold of me. My phone's on Do Not Disturb right now as we're recording this. But if my wife has an issue, my phone is going to vibrate. I'm going to get that. But anyone who's outside of my favorites list, it's just going to go straight to voicemail. Removing that distraction. The other thing that I have to do when I'm in deep work, as I like to call it, is turning off my email. My computer has the thing that if my email client is open, that it's going to give me a little ding and it's going to bring a little preview of that email up. And it's so easy for something to catch my attention there. Maybe it's a notification from Bleacher Report telling me that the Dodgers just sent Clayton Kershaw to the injured list. And that is going to derail me for 15, 20 minutes.
For probably a week or two.
Yeah, probably. It might derail me for longer than that. You're right. But so shutting down my email client, completely turning it off so that I don't get those notifications, because no email that's going to come through is more important than the task that I'm working on right now. And
Right.
yet it can easily distract.
Right. And all of us are that way. All of us can be easily distracted. We think we're thinking about things and suddenly something happens. What I do is I turn on the same CD and I play it over and over and over again and loud enough that it takes away any of the distractions. Like if I'm in the church office or somewhere, I'm just thinking about it, and I don't even think about I couldn't even tell you what the music was, but it was there, and it kept me from being distracted by other things. Again, keeping your phone on silent or whatever you do with that. If that period of time you need to think, find a way that only important messages come through. Don't, because your phone will bring you a bunch of other messages and to just distract you, and you don't need that. So distraction. Try to eliminate them as best you can, because if you don't, you'll spend your 2-hour block of time dealing with distractions.
Dealing with things that are not urgent
Right.
and not important. Yeah, and before you know it, your time's gone.
Exactly.
Yep. I listen to movie scores. when I'm doing important work, when I'm doing deep work. I listen to movie soundtracks. I find that it helps to keep me focused. And depending on what type of work I'm doing, it depends on what movie score I'm listening to. A couple other quick things that I want to get into. We're about out of time, but a couple of other quick things that I want to touch on really quick that have been life changers for me. One is I do have blocked time, batches of time for email, to go back and respond to emails, read emails, respond to emails. But something that I have found incredibly useful in the things that I do is I find that over and over and over again, I was sending the same email to people. That people have a lot of the same questions.
Sure.
And so have a template, have an email template that you can easily copy and paste, change a few little details. And instead of sitting there and typing out the same email every time, you just copy and paste, you put it in, and you're done in a few minutes,
Well,
maybe
that's
even a few
yeah,
seconds.
well, that's why that functions was invented to do just that, to be able to reproduce something pretty quickly that's important, and not have to spend there and type it. And then the more I do that, I get the pressure, and the more my typing becomes more creative, and my spelling becomes extremely creative. So having the template that you use would be a very good thing, a very good idea. And anything you can do that can save you time.
Streamline the process.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The last thing I want to touch on really quickly is something that I don't think a lot of small churches utilize, and that's church management software. There are so many great options out there for church management software that help you to be more organized, more productive in what you're doing. They have all sorts of features that are beneficial for the small church and can take a lot of the roles and a lot of the time sucks on a small church leader and really, really streamline then. If you're not using church management software, I cannot stress enough how important I think that is, how much easier it can make your world, your life, your mindset, your health. Because the bottom line is if you can spend less time doing busy work, if you can be more productive, the more productive you are, the more time you have for kingdom work. The less time you can spend doing administrative tasks, the more time you're going to have for the things that really make your heart beat, that really get you excited and energized. It used to be 10 years ago that church management software was cost a fortune. And so a lot of smaller churches, it just wasn't an option because they didn't have hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars a month to spend on church management software. But over the last few years, there have been so many new companies that have come into the game. The prices have come down and down, and the features have gone up and up. So if you're wanting to streamline your productivity, if you're wanting to streamline your administrative work, create more time in your schedule for the things that you enjoy, the things that bring you energy, and your personal time with your family and with your creator. Um, I would even go so far as to say that utilizing church management software can help prevent burnout, because so many of us in ministry, the things that burn us out are the things that don't bring us energy. They're the things that don't bring us joy. They're these tasks that have to get done on a daily or weekly basis that we don't feel equipped to do. They drain us. And church management software just streamlines these processes and makes it so simple. A couple of the programs that we would recommend, I use Planning Center. Planning Center has a ton of features. Um, One Church is one that's very popular. Church Teams is another one that's very popular, but probably my favorite one is called Breeze. Breeze will cost you. We looked it up before the show, Bruce, and I think we said that Breeze will cost you $72 a month. That is for unlimited access, unlimited users. does everything that you could want property management software to do?
For me, it's easy to get distracted. And we talked to you today about how we do things by batching things together, how we do things by making sure we stay focused, how we do things by shutting off certain things. So we're setting time aside that's important. I think that time we set aside is necessary. And if we don't do it, we're really not doing the ministry. And part of that time we set aside, too, is also a time that sometimes I neglect, and that's spending time with the Lord itself. Just having that time where we look at the Bible and talk with God. And I hate to say it as a minister, sometimes my day gets going, and that part gets left out.
Yeah.
Because something comes in and presses me, and instead of my feet hitting the floor praying about God, my feet hit the floor saying, "Oh, my Lord, somebody's in the hospital." And I may never get back to God that day. But have priorities, and we haven't talked, I think, maybe enough about the priority of being with God.
Yes.
And I'm one that can get so focused on the task that I may check in with God long after it's all done. And I think I'm trying in my life, after all these years, to make sure that it starts with God and ends with God, and that time with Him is more sacred even than the time when I spend preparing for a sermon or anything else. Where's the depth if we don't spend that time with God? Where's the depth for the sermon if we don't spend that time with the sermon? Where's the depth for mission or ministry or goal setting for the church if we as a leader don't set the standard for that and offer things? So I think what Tony's talked about today, and he's done a good job about batching and the things we can do and the things that will help us do that. I think it's been marvelous to listen to, and I think the advice he's given is really, really important, and I wish I'd heard it when I was young.
That's about all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Small Church Podcast. Again, we're honored that you chose to spend some time with us today. We've talked a lot today about ways that you can be more productive. We've given some really practical strategies and tips to be more productive leaders. If you would like to find out more about this or just more about how you can be a more productive leader, why don't you reach out to us on social media, reply to us on one of your formats of wherever you're listening to your podcast. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and subscribe to the Small Church Podcast. We would love to connect with you there. And tune in next week as we dive in deeper into the unique circumstances facing small church leaders and help you to become a better leader in your church, in your world, in your community. On behalf of Bruce Montgomery, thank you.